Hi there everyone. So in this video, I'm going to take a look at what I believe is the first true mid-tier figure in my collection, i.e. a pop-up parade pre-painted figure from Good Smile Company. Who I'll be unboxing and reviewing is Yuki Asuna from the anime adaptation of the Sword Art Online light novel series. In local hobby stores where I'm at, I've found Asuna selling for up to nearly 3 times her original retail price of 3,900 yen. That is, if you could even find one for sale. This particular pop-up parade figure of Asuna I had obtained in a less than mint pre-owned condition from AmiAmi Japan. Pop-up parade figures are packaged in an all-clear plastic box that has a clear view from 4 sides. While Good Smile Company isn't the only figure manufacturer to use all-clear packaging, to my knowledge, they are the only one that does it for mid-tier figures. And that's where the pop-up parade line lies in terms of market segmentation, to most collectors that is. A mid-tier figure in terms of pricing. In the company's own words, it's a line of intricately sculpted figures with gradated paintwork measuring 17 to 18 centimeters. As expected, the Asuna figure is highly visible, having a clear see-through packaging on her left, right, front and top sides. And although Asuna seems to be in good condition based on this external view, she is actually my first B-ranked pre-owned figure from AmiAmi Japan, so I'm pretty nervous as to what I might notice upon closer inspection. Asuna's pre-owned ranking of B means that AmiAmi believes the item has been opened and that the figure has minor dirt on it and/or is visibly damaged. So my assumption is that the previous owner had displayed Asuna in his or her own collection. I must admit, knowing the condition assigned by AmiAmi to the figure of Asuna beforehand has made me apprehensive of what her actual condition is going to be upon a closer inspection after the protective packaging has been removed. Packaging that sees her wrapped in a transparent plastic sheet and sandwiched between 2 clear plastic blisters. But I'm not going to worry about that for now. Instead, I'm going to focus on getting all the individual parts out from the plastic blisters without breaking anything. Beginning with the Asuna figurine herself, which is wrapped in a separate plastic sheet, followed by a simple white hexagonal base, a clear acrylic support rod, and finally her signature one-handed rapier, namely the lambent light, which I'm trying to remove from the plastic blisters now. Note that all these individual parts are covered in their own plastic bags. As usual, I'm not going to bore you with a running commentary of the unwrapping process, so I'll be back once all the parts concerned have been removed from their plastics. Now that Asuna and her accompanying accessories have been unwrapped, let's get a close-up view of all of them. My first order of business is to see if Asuna has any minor damage or dirt on her as per her condition ranking of B as given by AmiAmi Japan. At first glance, the figure doesn't seem to be either dirty or damaged, and while not perfect, the paintwork on her is fairly clean. Her clothes are a nice mix of glossy and matte white as well as red, with both gold and silver trimmings. Details on her face look nice and clean too, while her hair has a gradated paint job of orange hues that's mainly darker at the ends of her tresses and fringes. But while Asuna's hair had shadows and highlights painted on it, the reds and whites of her attire seem to be monotone in nature, with visual variety coming in the form of the shade colours having either a matte or gloss finish. Accessories on her attire, such as her belt and scabbard, were painted in light blue and bright reds respectively. Both the belt and scabbard have silver trimmings that are also present on the tongue and ankle area of her boots, as well as on her pearly white breastplate, while her bright red armbands have gold trimmings instead. Her hair looks to be intricately sculpted, especially when viewed from the back, which together with the orange paint gradation help offset the dull monotone whites of her large voluminous skirt. As far as I can tell, Asuna looks to be in reasonably good condition, for a pre-owned figure that's been ranked B for its item and B for the packaging. Meanwhile, in terms of likeness, which is a good barometer of how good a particular line of figures are in general, this pop-up parade figure of Asuna really shines with a very good resemblance to her anime character. There are also lots of details on her Knights of the Blood Oath Guild attire, such as the clearly defined cross symbols as well as the red and white trimmings on most edges of her clothing. That concludes the close-up look of Asuna herself. Next we have Lambent Light, which is Asuna's one-handed rapier. Its blade has been molded in a silver hue, while the section near the hilt has areas painted in light turquoise. Although metallic paint would have made the blade look more realistic, the molded-in silver hue looks adequate enough from a distance for a figure this size. What I'm holding in my hands now is a clear plastic support rod that functions to help hold up the figure from the back. That rod attaches to the hexagonal base I'm holding in my hands now. It has 3 holes on it, 2 for the pegs on her right foot and 1 for the rod. Now that we have gotten a close look at Asuna as well as her accessories and base, it's time to put it all together. For the assembly process, I'm going to start with Asuna herself. While she already comes fully formed as a complete figure, the blade of her rapier is detached from the handle. From what I can make out from the connection point on the handle, the peg is shaped in a certain way which should correspond to the shape of the hole on the blade. That being the case, attaching the rapier's blade to its handle can be done in only one orientation, which takes unnecessary guesswork out from the assembly process. That's fine by me, as it leaves me to focus on not accidentally snapping the blade in half as I push it with some force into the handle to ensure a secure connection. And now that the blade is connected to the handle, I'm just trying to adjust the alignment so that both are in line with each other. To my eyes at least, the blade seems a bit crooked relative to its handle. There, I think that's about as good as I can get the rapier's blade and handle to align, with the palm of Asuna's left hand helping to serve as support for the flat of the blade. Next up will be to attach Asuna to the base via the 2 connection pegs on her right foot. But before I do that, I think it's best that I attach the clear support rod into the base first, because the rod wouldn't fit if I did it the other way around. Note the convex and concave sides on the top end of the rod. Because it's meant to support Asuna's rear end, thus reducing the stress or weight that falls on her lone standing leg, it should be the concave side that faces the back of Asuna. If you have been following my previous reviews, then it will come as no surprise when I say that I'm not a fan of support rods because I feel they tend to mar the aesthetics of the figure. That being said, at least Good Smile Company did it tastefully, i.e. by making it a clear rod and positioning it behind the figure so that it's not so obvious. Like I mentioned earlier, what you see here is the concave section of the rod resting on Asuna's rear end, thus sharing the weight of the entire figure together with her right leg. Good Smile Company must have believed that allowing just her right leg to support the figure's entire weight would have stressed her right foot or ankle too much and could have potentially caused the entire figure to sag downwards. This is just an educated guess on my part, as it seems to be the most logical explanation why a support rod was even used. Looking at Asuna now in her entirety in this full 360-degree view, it becomes clearer why she has been given a support rod. While she can stand perfectly on her own without one, she is doing so at an angle with the majority of her weight distribution skewed towards the back. Over time, her right ankle could bend due to the uneven weight distribution. Standing at 16.5 centimeters in height from her feet to her head, or close to 18 centimeters when measured to the tip of her rapier, Asuna is a bit on the small side, but she makes up for it with an accurate and well-conceptualized sculpt, as well as paintwork of her in the Knights of the Blood Oath Guild attire. This accuracy extends to the figure's facial details, which show a good likeness to the Sword Art Online character. In fact, I had started collecting pop-up parade figures mainly because of how accurate they were in terms of likeness to the anime characters they portray. Other reasons include fairly clean paintwork, as well as intricately sculpted details, at least for the price point they sell for. And while poses by figures in this line can be hit or miss, with a fair number adopting relatively static poses, Asuna takes on a moderately dynamic pose that is sufficiently lively to suggest a figure in mid-movement. Combination of her legs position and the way she is holding her rapier, as well as the way her hair and skirt is billowing behind her, does enough to trick the eye into a sense of dynamic movement. Meanwhile, vivid reds and oranges against white form the primary hues, with the skin tone light blue and silver making up the rest. As clean as her overall paint job was, the only surface area with paint gradation work done, as far as I can tell, was on the hair, which spots dark orange on the ends against a largely light orange hue. Shading on her short ponytail, braids and fringe also help add depth to her hair. Asuna's hair has been elaborately sculpted to show off and differentiate between individual locks and tresses of her long hair at the back and fringe at the front, as well as the aforementioned braid and short ponytail. But one thing about her hair was a bit off-putting for me, and that's in the way her long hair seems to be blown back by a focused source of air like a hairdryer. To me, it looks unnatural as opposed to sculpting her hair with some randomness that arises from hair being blown back by natural wind. Despite that, it's undeniable that Asuna's hair is a key feature of this pop-up parade figure. As alluded to earlier, this pop-up parade figure bears a strong resemblance to the animated version of Asuna, and it's a resemblance that's made more credible and better by the excellently sculpted and painted Knights of the Blood Oath Guild attire she's wearing. Despite the attire's limited colour scheme of mainly red and white with gold and silver trimmings, it is chock full of beautiful details such as her almost pearlescent breastplate, the brooch-like ornament on her upper chest area, the medieval knight cross symbols on her clothes, the light blue belt that fixes the red glossy scabbard to her side, and her one-handed rapier lambent light. Such attention to detail will be hugely appreciated by sword art online fans, especially on a figure of this scale. And while the colours on Asuna's Knights of the Blood Oath Guild attire are generally flat and monotone, it largely escapes one's notice due to the optical distraction provided by the many excellent details. Yet it's not all roses with this Asuna mid-tier figure, as she has faults that stand out quite noticeably. They came to my attention even without me looking for it, not quite an eyesore, but irritating enough to a collector like myself. One of the figure's annoying flaws was that the skin tone on her hands was significantly lighter than on her face, which was a bit jarring to me. This was made much worse by both her hands' almost complete lack of definition, so much so that her right hand looks like a flipper. It would have helped if the space between her fingers had been shaded and the fingernails painted. Another issue I faced was the rather weak connection between the rapier's blade and its hilt. Because of this, there are occasions when the blade does not seem to be aligned in a straight line with the hilt. As such, the blade can seem a bit crooked when viewed from a certain angle. To be fair, the blade can be positioned to rest on her left hand in a certain way to overcome this problem. But when handling the figure, you'll almost inadvertently make the blade crooked again relative to its hilt due to the loose connection. Coming back to her face, Asuna has well-defined hazel-coloured eyes and the corresponding painted eyebrows and eyelashes, as well as a simple closed-mouth smile, though it would have been great to have some blush painted on her cheeks. And while Asuna's hair colour is largely anime accurate, it could have been better, as her hair colour in the anime is more of an orange-brownish chestnut hue rather than a pure orange. Asuna's clear support rod is an instance of one that was executed well. Both its transparent nature and positioning make it almost invisible from certain angles. More importantly, it allows Asuna to adopt a more dynamic pose without exposing her right foot or ankle to long-term stress due to the uneven weight distribution I had highlighted earlier. One thing I have yet to bring up about the pop-up parade line of figures is the bare-bones nature of their display base. To my knowledge, the bases tend to come in a single monotone color and simple shapes. And it's no different for Asuna, who stands on a no-frills white hexagonal base. Opinions are certainly divided on these bases. Some collectors think the bases are too simple and dull for a mid-tier pre-painted figure that's pricier than budget price ones. Others believe the base simplicity helps keep focus on the figure. My preference falls somewhere in between, as while I do believe the figure is too small for a vignette-like base, The price point of the figure kind of makes me wish for more. Now, I've been a fan of Good Smile Company's Pop-Up Parade series from afar for some time now, and what I've seen of Asuna is consistent with what I know of the series. The long and short of it, I find their figures to be accurate representations of popular anime characters with reasonably good paintwork and sculpt quality. While dynamism of the figures may vary, the bases are usually simple. As a recreation of Asuna in her Knights of the Blood Oath Guild attire, this is undoubtedly an extremely good figure for its price point. While not necessarily as affordable as price figures, it's still a good price point for what you get. Her colour scheme is vivid and eye-catching despite its limited palette. Yet, as I pointed out earlier, it's not entirely colour accurate. In the anime, she has a more muted orange-brown chestnut hair or strawberry blonde. Hue variations aside, this figure scores highly in the likeness factor of Asuna in her Knights of the Blood Oath Guild uniform. Details of her attire, rapier and facial features all look good at this scale. While Pop-Up Parade figures are not exactly known for their dynamic poses, I suppose Good Smile Company did try harder in Asuna's case, as they had used a support rod which enables the majority of her weight to be distributed towards the back, which makes her look like she's leaning backwards slightly as if she's in mid-jump and preparing to land on her feet. And having Asuna draw her sword is an appropriate choice relative to her combat-like stance. It places Lemon Light in a more prominent position, making her one-handed rapier more visually accessible in the overall pose. Considering that Asuna's hair not only covered a large surface area, but also contributed to the most interesting hue in a limited color palette, it comes as no surprise that Good Smile Company dedicated finite resources into making her hair a key feature visually. Not only is her hair intricately sculpted, it was also the only part to have been shaded. Perhaps it's the lack of shadows and highlights on her predominantly white attire that helps draw our attention to the plainness of her display base, which is only a simple white hexagonal piece of plastic. It's certainly something to be aware of, because if you are a collector who expects mid-tier figures to have elaborate bases, then you are going to be disappointed. Just know that other mid-tier lines with slightly higher price points, such as Furyu's Tennitor line, has incorporated vignette-like bases for most of their figures. With there being numerous iterations of Asuna in her Knights of the Blood Oath outfit, ranging from budget price to the expensive upper-tier scale-painted figures, it's unavoidable for any such figure to be judged more harshly than normal. On that note, I'm only giving her a rating of Platinum or B rank. While she has the details, lightness and paint quality I would expect in a mid-tier figure, her shortcomings, as highlighted in the review, do hold her back. Unless you're on a budget, she's not a must-have even if you're a sought-out online fan. That being said, she will still make a decent buy for any fan. That's it for today. Please like and subscribe. Be well and be happy.